Five. What's up, everyone? Glad you're all on for the BBR tonight. We got a bunch of people in already. We're using a new platform tonight. You'll see this as we go along. We're using some new advanced technology. So my co-hosts, there they are, Andrew and James. Welcome, guys.
What's up, guys? Yeah, it actually looks like it's pretty good, Derek. It looks like we're live on both the main groups in Facebook. So, and we're getting Facebook user messages. This is pretty cool. So, guys, forgive us in advance. You know we're early adopters on crazy tech. So, apologies. We're gonna wing the technology a little bit, but it's good to see you, boys. 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, it is. No, this is cool. So if you're on Facebook or any other platform, shoot us a quick hello or whatever it is, just so we can see who's on here and make sure our chat is working. But good to see everybody tonight. As we spoke about last week, we talked about this year's theme for Beauty Business Reset, and that theme is back to basics. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to talk about some numbers. Might bore some of you, but it's very important. So I want you to really pay attention to this. I think it's super duper important. Without knowing your foundation for your business, which is your numbers, you can't decide on your pricing and other things. So I really want to get into that. James, I did notice that it's not showing names. I don't know why, but it's just showing the names in Facebook, I guess. Hey,
Yeah,
Sally.
So guys, if you're, I'm in the BBR group. So Derek, if you jump in the salon business owners only group, just let us know. You can put your name in there, and we'll know who it is. But
yeah,
we're
in the chat,
we'll monitor
in our new chat widget that's built into the program. It's basically shows us the chat, but it doesn't show your name. So if you're typing a message, just say, "Hey, it's Sally" or whatever, just so we know who's who. We would appreciate that. Helps out a lot. Because we have 3 different platforms running into this right now at the same time. So exciting stuff that we're going to do moving forward. We can even do, Andrew, I didn't show you, but we got some neat new functions like this one. We can actually do a chat overlay and do comments and all types of stuff.
Wow.
So guys, about the basics of running your beauty business. Before I get into numbers, and I'm going to go over an article I wrote a long time ago. And Andrew, you actually, hey, Cindy, Andrew, you actually helped me write the article many years ago, but it's still relevant today. But before I get into that,
when I knew how to write.
Yeah, when I used to write a lot. What do you guys have to say about getting back to your basics with regard to running your beauty business?
Well, and as they're typing in the chat, I have to commend you and Andrew. Andrew sent out an email for you guys that are on Andrew's email chain, and it was really funny. The title was, "Is there too much month left at the end of your money?" Which I thought was really great. And in one of our other groups, somebody had posted, listen, January is January in the salon industry. It's never going to be your bank breaking month, especially after coming after a big November and December with the holidays. And someone was commenting about staff of the break room and the little chitter chatter and things about everything. And I'll have to remember her name. She said, "Well, tell them to stop hanging out in the broke room instead of the break room." And I said, there's so, and it wasn't her quote. She borrowed it from someone else. And I said, I'm totally going to steal it for the show tonight. But I think that's what it is. When you get back to basics, is you guys have to look at, listen, we've did so good over the last year and a half, almost 2 years, in going through numbers and making sure things are where they should be and just knowing them. If you can't change your numbers if you have no idea what they are, right, Andrew?
That's correct. You can't. You don't know where you are. How can you know where you want to go? And that's basic business 101.
Yeah, the other thing, Andrew had an interesting point when he's told me that comment a lot of times, and I always get back to the analogy. When I first started in the business, I remember how many owners would always say, "Yeah, I made this," and I said, "Well, how do you know that?" And they would say, "Well, that's what was left over after I paid payroll on Friday." Right? That's how their mentality was. It was, did I make enough money to even get to Friday without borrowing money to make sure my payroll cleared? And that's just not a way of running a business. So that's why I want to.
It's not the way of running a life. I mean, it's too much pressure, too much strain. It's so much easier just to get down to it and learn what you have to learn and then apply it. It's much more relaxing, believe me.
It can be frustrating though, Andrew, because you and I know, and James, you know this. There's a fear factor from some owners that they really want to hold the blinders on because they don't want to know their numbers. They should know them because they have no idea what's coming in or out, but they should know them whether it's fearful or not. Just because if you don't know where you are now, you can't build a proper business to build on. Now, if they're bad, that's fine. Don't be embarrassed. It tells you where you are and where you need to go. That's the important thing. So please, in tonight's lesson, any other lessons we give going forward, try and get past your fear, and pay attention to your numbers. I know you're going to want to be like an ostrich and stick your head right in the dirt, right, and go, "Oh my God, I don't want to know where I am. I'm too stressed." But I promise you, it will be enlightening for you to get it done the first time and then start climbing from there.
Yeah, and guys, just like we did last week where we asked about what guests you'd like to see on for 2022, the same thing with, we're just going to do some overview. Derek's got some great slides about the basics. Put comments in, whether it's tonight, whether it's on the rewatch, about things that you want to dive into, because sometimes the business component is so overwhelming, because there's so many facets to it. But if you want to focus on inventory control, if you want to focus on payroll control, there's things that you want to know about. We've been fortunate. We've been blessed, Andrew, Derek, and I, in having some unbelievable guests, which most of you know. We have a lot of new members, especially in the other group, the salon owners group. We've been really lucky. If we don't have an answer, and we may have an opinion, which I fortunately and unfortunately, the three of us always do. But if we don't have an answer, you bet your ass that we have someone that we can go back to that's an industry expert to give you a different perspective on it. And we'd love to be able to do that for you. I mean, that's been our pleasure for the last year and a half plus. So let's look at some of the stuff that Derek's got up there. And like we said, new platform, Derek, looks pretty cool. So go in.
Yeah, guys. So I'm going to go through some of this stuff, but I'm not going to get into it in super duper detail because I don't want to bore you to freaking death. But I am going to put this into the groups after this so you can follow up. It'll be in the comments section with the links so that you can follow up and get all this downloadable material. There's not just lessons in here, but there are also tools for you to use. So you can gauge yourself. I'm going to give out some free content tonight. We're going to give out our expenditures dashboard. You have to have Excel to run it. It won't run off of Google. It'll only run off of Microsoft Excel because it's it's just got a ton of programming in it. But it will help you know where you are so you know where you need to go. What I would say is all these basics I'm going to show you tonight, you need to practice religiously. I used to do them weekly. At the very least, you should be doing them monthly. Okay. So with that, I'm just going to go over some key points of this article that I wrote. Andrew co-authored it a while ago. And basically it was about the industry. And we can see here, it says the industry would all have us believe that we can get rich by owning a salon and selling products, right? That's what manufacturers have told us. But let's face it, they market to our ego, not our pockets. What I mean by that is you see some flashy owners, you think they have a lot of money because they're driving a Mercedes, but meanwhile, they're all maxed out on credit and they don't have a damn dime in their pocket and can't meet payroll. So don't let the disguise of the industry cloud you from running a proper business. So put the ego aside. And if we are to survive, we must put our business first. Now, Andrew has tons of lessons on this. Your business should come before you, your ego, your wants, your needs, your employees' needs, any of that. Because if there is no business, there are no employees, there's no you, there's no income, you can't take care of your family or whatever obligations you have, right? So in here, you got to get educated on business. Okay, as Jerry Maguire says, show me the money. Don't show me the fake stuff, right? Don't jump on the hamster wheel that was created in the industry. A lot of owners got on board and did things, and then their employees moved on to become owners, and they copied the same bad habits of what that past owner did. I've seen it 100 times. Andrew and James, you can chime in anytime you want, but we've seen owners all day. I'm giving 50%. I'm giving 60%. Well, that might be okay if that stylist is booking 3,000 or 4,000 a week. But if that stylist is the average stylist who books $1,500 a week, you will go out of business given that kind of commission.
Yeah, and listen, from the sustainability standpoint, I know we always have the green side of what we do, but you can't sustain that type of commission and give any comforts in terms of longevity for your staff. If you want a 401k, if you want some type of health benefits, anything that you want to do as a real business. And I think that's what's been happening too, right? After this last 2 years with PPP loans and things that people are actually looking at, I think salon owners that were good are like, wow, I'm a real business. Salon owners that were great were like, wow, this is fantastic, right? I'm able to have access to all these funds that nobody ever wanted to really give a hair salon, right? So, it's like buying spec construction years ago. You want to build something, the bank said, what is it?
So
Hair
James,
salons that ran.
on the idle loans and the PPP loans, if you didn't get if they weren't a grant, when do they start being paid?
Well, they extended them already, so that was the problem. So it's sort of in limbo. I believe at this point now next year, so it was a 2-year stay.
Yeah, but okay, so with that, and we don't need to get into the details, but with that, guys, I want you to know, please make sure your numbers are right, especially if you borrowed. I happen to know a particular salon that borrowed a boatload of money, way over the limit where you can wash it away if you bankrupted your company. So they went into the amount 199,000 where it becomes personal and you're responsible for it. And I happen to know there's no way in God's green earth this particular salon is going to meet the obligation to be able to make those payments. So when those payments kick in, please be prepared, because I don't want to see a bunch of you go out of business.
Well, and Paul, our friend Paula from Hudson, New York, just posted in there June 2022. So this year. So if you got them in 2019 during the reopening, it was 2 years from that point. So Paula, thank you for the info.
Thank you, Paula. So, I have a bunch of facts and figures in here, and they're not pulled just out of green air or out of thin air. You'll see in here some of these numbers have changed because this was written prior to COVID, but it's still very similar. There are an average of 3 suites for every 1,000 potential clients. Let that number sink in. When you say, "Oh, I don't want to market, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that," guess what? You better be marketing. You better be out that killer instinct, unless you're best friends with the salon next door. The rest of them you need to put out of business in your own mind. That's the mentality you have to have. And it's not because you want to see their families hurt, but for your family to survive, there are only 1,000 clients for every 3 salons. That is a fact, folks. Okay? It might have changed slightly after COVID, but the other thing that I would like to say is, and I said it earlier, the average stylist in the United States right now brings in $1,500 a week. Okay. That's a fact. You can't get around that. With that number, if you're paying anything above 40% commission, you will go out of business unless you're charging back bar fees. And there's a whole lesson we can go into whether you can charge back bar fees or you can't. That's a whole separate thing on the legalities that we can go into in another lesson. But these are just facts that I want to go over with you. Okay. Knowing those and frequency of visit and things like that, that's how you should be developing your pricing and knowing what it costs to run your business. Andrew, you got to rechange your new mic.
What is that?
You got to fix your new mic. Make sure you shut off the echo and everything.
Okay.
So I have a bunch of facts and figures in here, which will help you of how to base your numbers and what you need to look at and stuff like that. You'll see in here I have some charts of the industry averages. Some of you have seen these charts in our groups, okay? Some of you haven't. I'm going to jump into them without going through all this stuff, right? So you can see in here we've got a bunch of stuff, with some averages and stuff like this on the pie chart. So let me reshare my screen here, and I'm going to show you those pie charts that we created. And basically, I want you to think of your salon when you're looking at these numbers, these percentages, and you're welcome to use our charts. Think of it as a pizza pie and how many slices you can divide the pizza pie up into. I mean, that's what somebody taught me a long time ago. Okay, so let me just pull up this other chart. And the first one I'm going to pull up is what most salons are. So this is 90% of our industry. And this is kind of sad, right? So this is with an owner working behind the chair and not breaking out their salary from the rest of the salon. Whenever you include your salary into payroll, you should always account for, when you're doing your numbers, if you broke your leg and you had to hire a stylist, what is that amount that would go towards payroll? Okay, the rest should be your profit. But what is the amount that a normal stylist doing your clients would get? And make sure you include that in your calculations, okay? So you can see this pie chart. James, does it show, or do I need to zoom in a little more?
That looks great. Oh,
okay. So you'll see in here, we broke it out for you. This is the average salon, right? You can see payroll 50%, bank credit card 4%, professional products 8%, taxes 8%, and depending on your state, that might change. Now remember, all these numbers are of your overall dollars coming through the door, okay? It's not of a piece of this or a piece of that, okay? Retail 10%, utilities 4%, blah, 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 going on and on. Rent 10%, right? And all these averages are industry averages that are based on what we did research years ago with a couple of the bigger corporations, and they gave me what the percentage should be for these for you to be profitable. And then we went into the facts and figures of what most salons are doing and came up with these pie charts. So this is what 90% of the industry is doing right now. If they're running a minus 5% profit. Now that minus 5%, what's making up that negative 5%? You working behind the chair. So you bought yourself a job, and you're actually deducting 5% out of your salary every week to go towards picking up what's not being picked up on the things you should be managing. Okay. Now, think of this chart, right? It is what it is. But each one of these, if you were to shave 1% off of them, and this is why it's so important to micromanage these categories. If you were to shave just 1% off of each one of them, think of how much it would put in your pocket a year. Now, people go, well, how do I shave it off my rent? How do I shave it off my utilities? It's called pick up the freaking phone and negotiate. Okay? I used to do it with the product distributors. We carried Wella Color. Wella, everybody else was paying $7.45 a tube. I called them up and I said, we're doing, I forget what it was at the time. I want to say like 1,500 tubes a month. I said, I want better than the distributors get, because we were carrying more Wella than some of the distributors, like I forget Sally and some of the other wherever they were carried. We were using more on a regular basis, so they actually busted it down to me for, I think it was $3.85 a tube. So, and why? Because I said, if you don't give me at least a percentage discount, I'm going to look at other color lines. Don't be shy about what you do in business. They need you more than you need them. When you negotiate, always have a backup offer. Don't negotiate out of being a bullshitter, okay? Have something that somebody already says, we'll give you X, and then go back to your original and say, they're going to give me X, and I'm going to save this amount of money. You have to do this if you want to keep me, okay? That's just one strategy. You can do that with your rent. You can do that with utilities. You can do it with everything, okay? So that's important. Quick lesson. And again, I'm not going to go into this too much tonight. We can dig in with questions. You can just bump out your questions as you have them. James is monitoring the chat. So the next one I want to show you is, if I can get out of this one, and bear with us, guys. We're just getting used to this technology here. So that was the negative. Now here's a positive, right? And you can see this one, this particular owner, they lowered some things, okay? And just a little bit. And just by doing that, and this is without the owner's pay, they were up to a 6.5%. So with the owner's pay, they're probably running a 16.5% profit. So generally, the owner accounts for about 10% of the business. So that's why I said 16.5%. Now, I have had clients running a 30% profit margin because they micromanage each one of these. If you could do better than 30% profit margins, kudos to you, because I rarely see it. Andrew, James, have you seen it too many times?
No, I mean, I think that's, listen, the reality of it is almost any business, doesn't matter what the widget is. 20% is sort of like this absolute sweet spot of
Mm-hmm.
what you can do regardless. Anywhere from that 10 to 20% is manageable depending on what you do. Salons have the luxury of, usually you have an owner operator. So if you're a quote unquote employee of the business and you pay yourself like an employee for the services you do, and then you also do that other legwork as the owner, and the business can make the 10% profit, you're kind of in a golden spot because you sort of get it from both ends, but you're still working. But in the same sense, we're seeing salon owners now that are saying, wow, I worked really hard. I was the one that came back and I worked 5 days a week or 6 days a week to recover, couldn't get staff and things like that back in. And you sort of deviated back to your original days when, you were all piss and vinegar and trying to do the business on your own with no staff. That you have to go back to those days of saying like, hey, I've tried to graduate out of that and manage the business and do the training and keep it moving forward.
So on that theory, and Andrew, I want you to chime in on this, because
Sure.
most people forget that if you're an owner and you're behind the chair, if something happens, you still have to account for that portion of payroll of what you would normally pay a stylist to do that client, right? Or that book of clients. So if you're an owner, and you're doing a whole set of clients, what I want you to do is say, okay, well, I pay myself $500 a week, but it would cost me $400 a week for that stylist if I had to step away from the chair. Okay. And that leaves me a net of $100 a week towards the profit. Always account for that body in the chair. The business comes first. Take your name out of the equation. It's that chair. What is that chair generating or costing? Tonight we're talking about costs. So what is that chair costing me to run? Okay. Super duper important to know that. Okay. Next week we're going to have a lesson on payroll, right? How that relate. Actually, next week we're going to do a lesson on service pricing, how to build your service pricing. We have formulas on it. Most people build their service pricing out of looking at what their competitors do, or out of fear. They undercut the market. We have whole formulas for that for you for next week. That'll be next week's class. Okay. But again, going back to this, your foundation is knowing your expenses. Now you might say, hey, I'm just in business, I don't know, what the percentages should be or where I'm going to be. Well, we're going to give you a tool tonight. You will need Microsoft Excel to run it. You can actually pre-game and forecast on it, or you can plug your actual numbers into it. So I used to keep two of them, two dashboards, and the tool that I'm talking about, and I would save it under different file formats. I would have one is actual, one is forecasted, right? So you can kind of gauge what I need to do and where I am. Very important. And I'm going to pull that up next. I'm going to share that with you.
Yeah, and guys, I'm already queuing up next week's image. So I'm using Bruce Willis from Die Hard 1 when he's crawling through the ventilation shaft. So any of our regulars that are on live, if you guys want to name it, we're going to talk about service pricing and all that stuff. So if somebody wants to throw a name in the hat, I'm all for it while I'm in the middle of the creation process. I'm open to whatever.
Hey, Derek, James,
Yeah.
I think there's something really important with all of this, and especially for those folks who are working behind the chair, as Derek, as you pointed out. When you work behind the chair, you're working in one dimension, and that's called the work of the technician, right? And the technician's mindset, and when you think about the folks who are working with you, they're primarily technicians. The technician's mindset occurs in the dimension of sales. When you take off the technician hat and you put on your managerial hat, and that's what Derek's really talking about, because we're talking about how to ensure that we're running a profit. You were thinking in the dimension of profitability, okay? And then the entrepreneur, which is a whole other thing
Andrew,
altogether.
recommend the book of the gentleman you used to work with.
Oh,
hand in hand.
Michael Gerber, The E-Myth. Absolutely.
Exactly.
The
Guys,
E-Myth.
one of the best books you'll ever read, because it tells you about the service provider mentality versus the entrepreneur mentality and how to merge them. Super duper important.
It's very important, the mindset that you enter in, and the work
Andrew
that
actually
you do.
called me over there, but he actually used to work side by side with Michael Gerber. So
Yeah, I was a senior coach for him. Absolutely.
didn't know you knew. I didn't know if you knew that, James. And another fact out of the book, right? So all joking aside, though, we built this great tool for you. It's up on the screen now. I'm just going to scroll up a little bit. So what this does is it breaks down all your percentages for you on a month-to-month and a year-to-date basis. It is an Excel tool. I will share this. We used to charge for it, but everybody that's in the group, I'm going to provide it for free. I should say James and Andrew and I are going to provide it for free. Okay, and you can see here it's simple graphics. And the way this came about is my wife said, don't show me Excel charts. She's a stylist. She said, I don't freaking understand them looking at all those numbers. I get it. I get numbers, but the Excel chart too much. Show me a visual way. She's very visual, being an artist. So we had this created. And these numbers don't lie. These are great numbers for you to go by. Okay, so at the top, you're going to have a breakdown of what you're doing now and your year to date. In the middle, you're going to have, I call them gas gauges. You call them whatever you want, right? So you'll see these: rent, payroll, blah, blah, blah. In the green are the percentages of what the industry averages dictate. What I mean by that is we know that your rent should be the sweet spot is about 8%, 10% is getting a little bit high. Okay, you could say, well, you know what, I'm not bringing enough money. My rent is 15, 20% right now, right? So you have two ways of doing that. You can look at it that and where you need to get your overall income to be to get your rent at 10%. And when you do that, almost all these other gauges will fall in line unless you're blowing money. Okay, so it's some interesting stuff for you to use. Okay.
Hey guys, hey Derek, sorry, 1 second. So guys, I know the image is kind of shortened, but this is going to be up in the group for you guys to add your own information in. So I know a few people asked about the size of the image, but don't worry about the size of the image. Derek's going to put it up in the group for our members.
Oh yeah, these are full size, and I apologize if it's not showing up as well on your screen as it should, but you'll also see in here we do year-to-date tracking for inside of this dashboard, the expense dashboard. These are important because these trend lines are telling you the way you're trending with industry percentage, ideal percentage versus where you might be. If you're getting over red, you know you're in trouble, right? If you're in between the red and green, you're working things well. If you're green or below, wow, fantastic. So this will give you the trend month to month. Okay. Now where this stuff comes from is you're going to do this. So you're going to go into your dashboard and you're going to plug in your monthly income. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me zoom in a little bit. That might help, James. Let me see. Let me know if this helps. Better?
Yeah, much better. But it's
Okay,
also,
so
you guys, these sheets are in there. You have to plug your numbers in. So this is just for Derek to do an overview.
Yeah, so you would plug your monthly income in there. Okay. Then you would go into your expenses tab and you're gonna plug in your expenses in here. It has all your categories in here pre-programmed for you. You just plug the numbers in. Then you put your miscellaneous expenses in here. Okay. And what's going to happen is it's going to spit it all out in your dashboard. And it's going to give you a visual representation of where you are and where you're going. Okay. There are also some profit first system stuff in here. which I used to be a coach for. So you can look at the Profit First stuff. Some of you have probably read the book Profit First, and here's the information on it. So it's all inside this platform. I think you guys will love it. Again, we used to charge for it, but I'm going to give it to all of you for free. Okay. Trying to think what else we have for you. I think that's it, aside from Q&A and whatever you guys got for us.
Yeah, guys. So we're live in both groups. Post some questions. We're going to go back to the comments on this. Listen, we know obviously things have changed over COVID. Everybody's back to work at this point. So we'll monitor everything and we'll be happy to answer questions for the next few days after this about anyone that has specifics. I mean, I love the gears, Derek. I think that that's a really easy way to plug the numbers in because it makes sense, right? If the gas is on E, you're not going to go anywhere. You're not going to go anywhere for long.
Yeah.
You really want to be able to use those gauges and be able to figure it out and see. And we hope to get back to, so the joke is price hard with a vengeance, right? Like we're talking about for next week's about pricing. But I have to be honest, our regulars that are in, we've exponentially grown in the groups, as you guys knew from last week that were on with us. And what's funny is that our norms, like our regulars, you guys that have been with us, and I mean norms as in normals and norms as in cheers, you guys that have been with us through these, beyond the 2 years of COVID and everything, the questions that are coming in, you guys are doing a great job in answering the questions that we don't have to monitor as much, right, Derek? Like
No,
we
it's
laugh
exciting.
now.
I mean, look, a lot of you have learned all these lessons, and a lot of you knew a lot of them, and you're giving back to the industry, and that's what the groups are about. Our two groups, and we went over 20,000 members as of this month, which is pretty exciting. And I don't mean members, but 20,000 salons and spas, and some are medi spas, some are tanning salons, and doctors, and but anybody in the beauty industry. So we've gone over 20,000 businesses, which is pretty exciting, that we are able to reach out. So that same goes for you. If give your advice to those businesses. Everybody's advice is appreciated. The people that get in there and give nasty comments, make sure you report them to one of us. People that advertise in the groups, make sure you report it, because it makes it. I will tell you, my biggest pet peeve in the groups is when somebody goes in there and advertises, even after they've said, no, I won't advertise, and the questions to join the group. We have no way of policing that unless somebody reports it. I do look through the comments in the morning, and James and Andrew laugh at me because generally every morning we have hundreds of people that want to join, and a shit show of people trying to sell hair extensions right from China and stuff, even though they lied and said they were a salon owner. So any way you can help us build these communities to be the place to be is fantastic.
That's it. And for you guys, listen, until Andrew writes his own book, you're going to have to stick with Michael Gerber's E-Myth Revisited. It's the closest thing you're going to get to Andrew's wisdom. But I'm really interested for Andrew to write his book, because I've seen some of the pictures that he's had over the years with all the salons of the storied history, and they're absolutely amazing. So that's my favorite kind of book, Andrew, is like when you open it up and it has all really cool photos of things that actually happened. So I can't wait for you to write your book. Now that you've officially relocated to Michigan, I can't wait. You're going to have plenty of time. I even have a really old typewriter that's about 100 years old. If you need to hear the clickety clack, I will gladly ship it to you. It'll probably cost me more money than it's worth to ship it to you, but I'll be happy to.
Guys,
Andrew, thank you. He's muted, but
yeah, we've got quite a group right now live. But if you have questions about the basics, please, I appreciate the kudos and all the love. Give me some questions right now. I'd love to answer questions.
Cindy's going to help you, Andrew, do some research.
I saw that. Don't be shy, gang. Spit them out. You can ask me.
And also feel free to comment on them after. Like I said, we'll take a look at them and see. But especially our live people that are always on, you guys are great. Like you know how to look at these numbers. And now, even more importantly, with those tools and those Excel sheets, you know the numbers. So jump in and use the things that those tools that are already set, because you know how to pull your numbers, whatever your software is, whether you're Mevo or Forst or Rosie or one of the better softwares that are out there. You guys know how to pull the numbers. All you gotta do is plug them in. It's
So,
like,
well, here's the interesting thing, James, and I can't wait for one of the salon softwares to listen to me. I've been trying to get them to put this dashboard in their software for the longest time. Salon softwares typically tell you how much you bring in, but they don't tell you where your expenditures are. And QuickBooks does, but it's sloppy. So some of this is going to take a little bit of work. But once you start using our dashboard on a monthly basis, I've got clients that go, "Oh my God, I just bring this to my accountant. Boom, he loves it." So not only will it get your mindset right and let you know what pertains to our industry, right? Like, where's my back bar expenses? That's one of our categories in here, in relation to where they should be, things like that. Super duper
well,
important.
hey, so Derek, we're getting so just so you guys know, new platform. In the new platform, you guys come up as Facebook users, so there's a little bit of a lag on it. So it's kind of funny because I'm watching on our Facebook Live and I know who's commenting, so everything
Yeah.
comes up as a blind. So it's actually pretty funny. And I'm not making fun of you. I'm laughing with you. But a couple of good questions. So
We can get into these. I mean, as they come in, I know a couple of them
yeah,
are
but like,
off
listen,
topic. You know,
my friend Paula, Paula said she has a problem with product usage versus sales. Unfortunately, the best way that we've come up with that has a lot of different angles to it is using something like Vish. You can't
can I
get, I
make a
mean,
joke? Can I make a joke?
well, you know
Tell,
what it is? You basically get the
come on.
benefit of it.
No, I agree with Josh and
Yeah,
Vish,
yeah.
but tell them the sink is broken, the plumbing's broken, and put a bucket in there, and then show them all what they wasted after the day.
Yeah,
I do
but
it
for
all
you
the
guys,
time.
listen, I spent a number of years in the restaurant business, so I love bar rescue. When they do that, the opening night or whatever they're trying to do, they put a bucket in the sink, and every time they make a drink wrong, they dump it in and they show them how much
Well, I
money
did
they
the
lost.
exact same thing, and I used to fill up like a 5-gallon bucket with color and bleach and you name it, and I would flip my freaking lid and say, "You realize this amount of waste? I could hire somebody to stand in the color room like beauty school and mix your formulas for you with no waste."
Yeah,
So
but
yeah, it's
but
pretty
what's
funny.
good
But
about
no,
fish?
honestly,
So
Vish, and things like that. Knowing how long a client's hair, that's a whole that we could do a whole class on that. But yeah, for sure, for sure.
which
Um,
we definitely will. I know Paula also is saying that QuickBooks is the devil.
it is.
Paula, I promise you, Paula, we're a Mac shop, so unfortunately, pinky's up for me. I'm very Apple bougie. I haven't used Microsoft in a really long time. It was really painful for us when it was software based, and once QuickBooks went online, spend a little time just knowing not even everything, just knowing what you need to do, and link your bank accounts with it. And I promise you, a little bit of TLC. It's like but it's like being the zookeeper. At some point, you have to go in and make sure that keep your head down when you crawl over to the wild animal. A little bit of a concession for both you and QuickBooks, and I promise you, you will love it, and you'll see how easy it is if you just spent a little TLC with it.
So James, I just popped up one. What is the one thing you can do tomorrow at work to impact 2022?
Win the lottery.
Well, from a business perspective, is to put these numbers down to have your foundation. Okay. From that, once you do that and you have these numbers, the next thing you can do is, how do I take 1% off of each one of those categories? So this is
Yeah,
on cost. This is on costs. Okay. That's the one thing you can do to impact your bottom line right now. Now, the second thing you can do is increase your revenue. And there's only a couple ways to do that. And we'll go over that in a future lesson. We don't need to overcomplicate that. But the one thing you can do tomorrow is to get your numbers down on paper and know exactly what they are. So you know what my hourly cost is, what I'm spending. Those are the most important things you can do in your business.
Yeah, and I think too, listen, meeting apprehension. I know, some of you may be team-based pay, which, we love Neil and what strategies does. And We have some really large salon owners like our friend Sue in Pennsylvania that I can't believe how she can coordinate all of these meetings that she has between one-on-ones biweekly and staff meetings daily. Have some meetings. I mean, Stephanie Fox, who's been on with us, that does Talent Match, had a big thing the other day about surveying your staff. If you don't have conversations, and we have 3 kids that are ebbing into their teens, right? So I always think of those commercials that we used to see about 10 years ago, where if everybody came home for dinner and had dinner at the same table, your kids were X percentage like less likely to be on drugs, which I don't I don't know. I feel like the doctors are all pushing drugs and everybody different conversation completely. Um, but those meetings are important. That it doesn't always have to be about the, hey, you don't clean up, hey, you don't do this, hey, you don't do that, hey, you use too much back bar. Is figure out what the staff needs to be successful, right? Figure out what would make their daily job easier. And you may be
James,
surprised. It may be
that's
really
about
easy.
important. James and Andrew, you know what? If one of you wants to take a note, we could do a class on employee buy-in after we go through the basics.
And
Because
that's critical.
that's what it comes down to. Employee
Do
buy-in.
you know what I'm noticing here on the the chat? Raise prices and reduce time per service. So tomorrow, go in to the salon and have a list of questions. When was the last time I raised my prices? Another one said many salons don't charge for extra color. Go in and have a question. Are we charging for extra color, glazes, etc.? Don't go in and attack anyone. Just start asking the questions. Just start. Back bar is my nemesis. Okay, go in and say, how are we ordering our back bar? What's going on here? Right?
Are we doing right? Are we doing points? Are we using our own brand at the back bar? Right? And I'm not advertising any private label, but I used to buy 50-gallon drums for our back bar. You know, we had our own brands, right?
Yep.
Things like that. You know, work smarter. And I kind of hate this saying. It's work smarter, not harder, because I believe in work smarter, work doubly hard, till you get to a point where you don't have to work like the rest of the world while they're still slaving away, and you can retire or you can sell or do things, right? So, you know, I believe in full throttle, but you have to be smart while you're doing it. So super.
Another user said open communication was tough for me when I started team-based pay, but it is vital now. Yes, whether you're on team-based pay, and I know that's an integral part of the success of team-based pay. You really have to communicate openly, courageously, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So I'm trying to think of her name. I think it's Andrew, help me here. Valenzuela. What's her first name?
Christy.
So she has a course, and I hate plugging other courses, but the front desk doctor. So when it comes to this comment right here, just a review, the schedule told me the hours and services were skewed, right? So one of the things, and I know James did it because he works the desk. I used to have to fill in at all 3 of our salons when the desk staff, somebody wouldn't show up, even though we had multiple receptionists. But I micromanaged to the point people would get scared, because those half-hour gaps, 15-hour gaps, that's what kills your business. The front desk that's saying, I don't have room. Well, guess what? You call, you push a couple people around, you make it an hour gap, you fill that gap in with a new client, or somebody wants to go home and there's only a half hour left at the end of the night. Guess what? You're staying, I'm paying you. You pay them for that hour service to get that new client in. You know, there's never no when it comes to making an appointment. I'm sorry. I could always find room somehow, somewhere. Okay. 15-minute increments will kill you in your business.
And when I won my NAHA for running the front desk, which is a joke, by the way, with PVA, it's also understanding where the issue is, right? So to give you an example, even in our salon today, we're getting an influx of new clients that are desperate for a home, because unfortunately in our area, we used to have 20 hair salons in 2 square miles. 5 of them had closed during COVID. not all of the other remaining ones would I consider peers or competitors. There are varied degrees of what they do differently than we do. So we're getting an influx of new clients, and I give them the basics of what we do differently, verbal, right over the phone. We're just like you always did, COVID or not. And when I find out they're a 4-week client, I have this joke with them and I say, well, this is going to seem odd for you. I know I'm confident you're going to love us and we're going to be a good fit together, but I'm going to book your second appointment. And they say, well, what do you mean? I said, well, you're a 4-week client. We're at least 2 weeks for an appointment to get in. By the time you get in for that first appointment and you need to be a certain time of day, I'm never going to get you back in for your second visit. So let's throw it in the universe and say, I'm confident that we're going to love you and you're going to love us. If you're unhappy, great, we'll cancel it. But I'd rather have it waiting. And then the client inevitably says to me, you know what? I think I am going to like it there. Book the second appointment after that. So now I have a client that's never physically set foot in the salon that booked 3 appointments. First visit, second visit, third visit, just based on our rapport and what we do. And that's from the desk. And granted, I know it's me. And like I said, Naha award-winning front desk, but we go over different bells and whistles of what we do in terms of consultation and things. But that's the thing, is that initial first impression, it's just as much of the person on the phone as to when they walk in. Even policies, we're seeing now that, we had very strict COVID policies. Listen, Andrew and Derek know, especially Andrew and I, in our area, COVID walloped us in the beginning, where it was just absolutely insanity. So clients appreciate the fact that you had policies, but we use that to reinforce our regular policies, our cancellation policies, how we intake clients, how we do patch testing for people with allergies. We sort of used, I don't want to say, listen, we all got screwed with COVID in the salon business. We use that to layer in our other policies we always had. And clients appreciate a little bit of structure. They always did. We just let the structure slide with staff and with clients and the salon overall. They like a little bit of structure. They like to be, hey, this is the way we wash the clothes. They like that. And that's, I think, hopefully what Back to Basics gets us all to be.
Well, people like what we call orchestrated patterns are natural for people, whether it's your clientele or it's your team. And people they love it, actually. And that's what a system is. The system is just a bunch of steps designed to get a specific result, put it together.
And here's something, Andrew, and you lived in New York for a number of, and I mean, you lived in New York forever until just a few days ago. But you take a place like, but listen, and here's a great analogy. You take a place like the Museum of Natural History, right? It's got a plethora of everything from dinosaurs to crazy. If you didn't have a knowledgeable, well-adjusted guide to navigate you through, you could walk around like an idiot and spend 5 hours there and not even realize what you saw or know which way to go or how the process worked. When you have a proper guide that goes through everything with you, it changes the whole dynamic. I mean, we had gone back, I had gone there as a kid multiple times in school. We took our kids there just for a day off years ago, something to do. And we sort of tagged along with a school that had a guide just in the background. We weren't even in the school class. And when that person explained everything of what you were looking at, whether it was Sacagawea or whatever you did, their stories were just so passionate. They do that every day. You know how annoying it must be to talk about, Lewis and Clark every day? Like, no offense, but like, I don't want to talk about Lewis and Clark every day.
That's why you're not them.
That's exactly it. But they're able to do it.
I think that based on this, we've got a lot of front desk questions. So after we get through the numbers of pricing and some other things, I think we'll do a front desk class between myself, James, and Andrew. We've all run guest services teams inside and out. I honestly think we could probably put together the best front end class ever. We'll just call it, and for James and I, we'll call it, well, James and I are the front, and excuse the language, the front desk bitches. So my wife was the boss. Okay. So, and his too. James and I have a similar situation. Both our wives were stylists and owners. So that would be a lot of fun. But we have a question here. We've had so many no-shows, cancellations, considering a new system. Great. 100%. If you got a piece of software, and I'll plug Salon Ninja, you can do this very easily for getting the notice out and getting deposits up front and things like that. A lot of softwares do something similar, not as advanced as Salon Ninja, but great policy. I mean, if you're to the point where you're booked pretty well, I would absolutely take credit card deposits up front.
Yeah, and I know you posted it up. Do me a favor, if you want, send me a DM. We can talk offline about some of the things that we do. We have a super strict 48-hour cancellation policy. And I don't know if I want to say this on a live video, but we actually charge our clients 48 hours before they set foot in the salon to meet the policy. And we've been doing that for the last 2 years. And I feel like even our buddy Anthony Whitaker was on a live podcast talking about something. He goes, my friend James in New Jersey actually charges the clients 2 days before they actually set foot. And
yeah, no, it's great stuff. It's great stuff.
Yeah, so there's some things we could talk about, and that could be its own thing as well. So I would love to talk about that.
Yeah, and we're getting a lot of good info here that we can do new classes for this year off of. So I appreciate that. This one, do you guys feel social media advertising made the average salon's marketing spending budget go up or down? Well, so here's the thing I get so frustrated with. If you are spending money on advertising and it is producing new clients, stop tripping over the pennies to make dollars. Does everybody understand what I'm saying there? In other words, I've had clients call and say, I spent $40 in text marketing this month. Well, I said, you got 150 clients. Well, I never paid that for text marketing. But one client pays for that. Don't trip over the pennies to make dollars. Count your ROI, your return on investment. If you're marketing and you're spending money on social media and your marketing's working and putting people in that chair, then God bless. If it's not, then you need to revisit your social media advertising. I will tell you right now, get the hell out of Facebook right now until they fix their algorithms. Facebook advertising is going either that. Go ahead, James.
You guys are all in the sales business. So as someone that came out of sales, when I was in the real estate and finance business, for what we would call a live transfer lead, meant somebody called in to whatever. And so you guys that are looking for a house and you go on Zillow and you're like, oh, we're looking. Well, just so you know, as soon as you click the button, that goes out to 10 real estate agents and they all pay money for that. They all pay $100 to get your live transfer. And the first one that answers talks to you. The other 9 just paid $100 to not talk to you, right? So Zillow made $1,000 to have you click on that button, and you guys are sort of in the same thing. So what is a new client worth? Right, Andrew, you have those stats, right?
That's precisely it. I think Derek hit the ball on the nail on the head. You just did too, and it goes back to the fundamentals of just knowing the numbers. What is a first-time client worth to you? Okay. And what does it cost to bring them through the door? Okay.
Perfect. So what does it cost, right? What does it cost, your return on investment for that first visit? What is your retention rate? Okay. And how many times does your average, or how many years does your average client stay with you? I can tell you that if you're running a 50% retention rate, that's easy to figure out your average cost to garner those clients, right? The average client right now is 5.5 years. That's a fact. Okay. If you took your ones that stay long, the ones that stay short. So you can do those numbers. I mean, so that first visit, say it's $100, right? Now out of 2, only 1 is on there, and we'll say $50, right? Was your cost $50 times 6 to 8 visits a year times 5.5 years, and you spent $10 to get that client? What is your mindset that doesn't think that's great? Now, there's a whole process behind that, right? It's getting them through the door, then the sales process, the consultation, all those things that go along with it. But you got to be on your game, because that one client could be worth tens of thousands of dollars for you spending a couple bucks in social media advertising. Okay.
And you have to look at it too, is that new client acquisition does not matter what the business is. And I think this is where salons really excelled. Like, we unified during this closure period because, we were labeled as personal care services. So we operate like doctors and nurses do. We provide a service like restaurateurs do, but we're sort of in the middle because, a waiter can hand you your fries with the pole vaults from 20 feet away and get them on your table. And, I think that politicians and the people that make the rules started to look at, wow, this industry is interesting because they have all the sanitation and disinfection protocols as a dentist office does, but they have all the customer service and responsibility in terms of client interaction as a restaurant or even better than a restaurant, right? You can go to a restaurant, hate it, and leave, and you're not going to go back. As long as you don't get food poisoning, you're not going to complain. But we have this very hybrid version of what we do. And I feel like we sort of have everybody's ear right now. But client acquisition and client retention are two different things.
Yeah, exactly. And somebody just said that right here. Getting them to stay is more important than finding them. They're both equally important. Bringing new clients through the door is a challenge. It's just like bringing new stylists through the door. And what I want everybody to understand, because we got these questions earlier, is marketing is marketing. Whether you're marketing to bring in a new client or you're marketing to bring in a new stylist, it's the same thing. You have to look at how people look at your business from the outside. Okay. Somebody just said Google is underrated. You're 100% right now.
Correct.
Google ads are outperforming Facebook probably, I would say, 100 to 1 right now. Now that Facebook got killed by Apple with the algorithm. And if anybody doesn't know what that means, Facebook and Apple got in a big fight, and Apple shut down the tracking of marketing inside of Apple iPhones, which is approximately 50% of the market of what people look at ads on. So that's huge, huge. And Google does rock. Google AdWords, you cannot beat if you know how to do keywords.
No, I mean, all this is integrated. Your client acquisition, your client retention. And we need to know our numbers around those things.
Yeah, what does it cost me to acquire a client? What is my retention rate, right? And how long does the average client stay with me? Those are pretty easy things to figure out. Once you figure that out, you will probably have an aha moment that goes, holy crap, that's how much I can get from spending this much on a client to get them through the door. Now, the second part of getting them through the door, and we'll do a lesson on this, is the consultation. My God, I have seen the consultations go like this in the industry. It literally makes me want to throw up.
How's your color?
As a marketer, no, but we work so hard as an owner to get them through the door. Right? We get them through the door, but then the stylist goes, okay, what do you want today? Throws the cape on, cuts their hair, styles their hair. Bye. Here's your ticket. Doesn't walk them up to the front door. Barely even takes their cape off their neck because they're too freaking lazy. Instead of giving that white glove service.
Well, and I guess that's good. Listen, second episode back in for 2022. We're going to go back and look through some of the comments and do some things. Next week, unfortunately, we have to do pricing. Like I said, the bunch of you that are on live, the bunch that are on live are all like, we're going to talk about pricing again. I promise we'll keep it colorful, but there's so many people that.
Yeah, but it's not going to be about how to raise your prices. It's going to be about where your prices should be from the base, right?
Exactly.
We can all charge more, but we need to know the base. We need to know our foundation. That's what this year is geared on. The foundation of every piece of this: consultations, market, knowing your pricing, knowing your expenditures, all those things. That's our theme for this year in BBR.
Yeah, and that's it, guys. You have to remember that whatever version of COVID we're still stuck with, even if it's forever, we're sort of in this luxury spot for the next 6 or 9 months where things are going to start to drip and drab back to normal. So use it to your advantage. Let's look at your policies. Let's look at your pricing. Sign up for Salon Ninja. Get your marketing back in line. I've said it. I don't even know how many times. 112 live calls, Derek, that for me, as someone that runs the front of house, the dashboard that Ninja does for me, it brings in my Instagram messages, my Facebook messages, our text messages all into one place. I couldn't do what I do. I couldn't do these live free calls for 114 episodes if I didn't have the flexibility to be able to do that, because it's just that easy. And that's not even the tip of the iceberg. I mean, that's just a teeny tiny bit of what it does. But look at it. Take a look at it. You guys all use software. Stop complaining about what you spend money on, because you waste so much money. Andrew, what's the book about buying the cappuccinos?
What is that now?
Cappuccino effect, or whatever it was that the guy wrote about managing your personal finances, and you're buying a Starbucks every day for $3.64, which is now $5.64.
I can't remember the name of the author, but
Yeah, you guys can Google it and find out. But reality of it is, if you're micromanaging the stuff that you're looking at, because that's a hard monthly expense, right? It's not like your rent. If you're using a marketing tool and you're using your software correctly, and you're doing things to not only manage your business and to keep the costs down, but doing things to expand your business, those are exponentially great. I'm getting tired of people that comment about whether they're going to serve coffee and tea again. Okay. We're an organic and naturally formatted salon. I have to be honest with you. We've served some of the fucking best coffee and tea with exotic honey that was slow food based, that came from exotic places, that supported tribes and supported people outside. And we tried to do all these fun things. And inevitably, at the end of the day,
factored that into your pricing.
well, you can, but here's the thing, Andrew, is at some point you had to manage the cleanup of that area at the end of the day, and how that looked for perception of new clients that came in. And if anybody's ever been to a Dunkin' Donuts and even a Starbucks now, mask, no mask, gloves, I don't care if you're in a full astronaut suit, the sugar packet, the person that takes the sugar packet and can't figure out how to open the little paper wrapper and put it in the coffee, that does this, somebody's got to clean that up, right? So we opted during COVID to go to fancier glasses and serve exotic water. We already had an exotic water machine. We already did ambient water. For you guys that don't know, that's a fancy way to say room temperature. We did cold water. We did carbonated water, con gas for our friends that are European. So we opted to bring that through and made it something a little more interesting, because we already had it for staff, than dealing with, oh, what kind of sugar? And from our end, it became, oh, you don't have monk fruit sugar? No, we have sugar. It's organic sugar. Well, you don't have sweet and low? No, we have organic sugar. Like, it became an add-on layer to our consultation that had nothing to do with what we did, except for something free that we served that inevitably somebody had to clean up, which was usually moi. So we changed the perception on it and said, hey, we're going to serve really awesome, clean water. Do you want it ambient? Do you want it sparkling? Do you want it cold? Do you want it with ice? Do you want it in a glass? Do you want me to put it in your hands and you can slurp it up however you want it? We're going to do that. And it's
James, I have to say, one of my many things I used to do is we used to do salon build outs and consultation. So we did a salon in North Jersey in Florham Park, and they had, probably 50 chairs. They had a restaurant up front that they would serve lobster and champagne. Dewey on the Florham Park Circle. I don't know if you remember, but so I helped him set up. But I mean, that was the level of service. He came from the days when, the old days where it was white glove service, right? But think of new ways to be unique like that. We could do a class again. We definitely need to do a customer service concierge type thing class. We'll get to that, guys. But we're out of time for this evening. If anybody has any last minute questions before we check out, just post them up in the chat quickly. We'll stay on for another couple minutes and we'll wrap it up. Pardon me.
No, that's good. A lot of ninja love. Who just said that? I've never brought. There's a lag. So listen, Sally, our good friend Sally, she never brought back food in her coffee back bar after COVID. They just do regular water. But if you could tie it in theme wise, which I think we should make a whole separate thing. There's just ways
Yeah.
to do it without the expense that makes it more interesting, that makes it easier to service. Just like anything else, like why are we overthinking really good service with the stuff we do so well? You guys are so creative.
If you have a spa, just do, hey, we don't have a drink, but we have an facial, something like that, right? I mean, theme it in, right? That's funny.
We serve oxygen when you walk into the
It had to
salon.
be El Tapo water. Had to be. I can't see who it was, but it's got to be Randy. No, who was it? James? El Tapo water. That's funny.
No, but let's see. So listen, next week, unfortunately, you guys are going to have to muscle through pricing. But we're going to, for you guys that are well in tune with raising your pricing, we're going to talk a little bit more about the nuts and bolts. For you people that didn't raise your pricing over this, I don't know what we're going to do with you.
James, I want to grab this one quick before we jump off. How does the opportunities work on the dashboard of Ninja? The opportunities on Ninja, it's going to tell you all your leads that are coming in from your marketing. It's going to give you their name, phone number, and email. And you're going to click on their card and you're going to call them up and say, hey, I saw you were interested in getting blah, blah, blah special. Want to get you in for your first appointment. It's that easy.
No, that's great. Hey, and guys, can't wait to see you guys next week. Post some comments and things up about business aspect. Last week we talked about guests. This week we're talking a little bit about honing in on certain things. And what we'll do is we're going to go back and we're going to actually break these out into parts, and we're going to keep them super concise so that we can go in and just make sure that we're giving you guys things that you can go back and work on. Because that was one of my least favorite things coaching wise, was when it's so overwhelming and it's so all encompassing. It's hard to go back and nuts and bolts that down to something you can do day to day. And 2022 for us are things that you're going to be able to implement every week. Go back in, bang, 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 and start to build on it. And building blocks is where it's at, because we're over it, right, Andrew?
We are, sir. Absolutely.
And I'm loving that kitchen behind you there.
You like that, huh?
Yeah. Even with the lighting, I can tell that's a very svelte and sexy kitchen.
It's a cozy kitchen. It's cozy up here.
Yeah, it's
hey, cold and cozy.
We don't care. It's very modern going on back there. I can see a lot of vision going on.
There you go. I'm going to get the lighting.
Yeah. Also, you had a bunch of questions at the end as to where you get the files from tonight. I'll post them in the comments. I'll also post them in both groups' files, so you'll be able to go into the files tab inside of each Facebook group. A lot of people forget that those tabs are there. There is a ton of great tools in each one of those files tabs from both groups. So make sure you jump in there, and all that information will be in there. If you want to chat about Salon Ninja, or you have any questions, or if you're a Salon Ninja user and you need something, then just, guys, in the top of your tutorials tab is a book now. Book an appointment with me and I'll go over anything you need to go over.
Yeah. And if you want, because I write daily email, if you want to get on that list, it's Andrew@AndrewFinkelstein.com. Shameless plug right there.
Definitely.
If you want,
message me on Facebook. Hey, I read them all. I read them all the time.
If you want, message me on Facebook. I answer sarcastically on a daily basis, so I could be a good yin to Andrew's yang, or maybe the yang.
Exactly.
I don't know, Andrew. I don't know how that works.
Exactly. And if you don't like James, we can get out. We can give Iva's email out.
Absolutely.
Good night, guys.
No. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
See you next week.